I want to ask you a question. Do you believe the things that you believe in and the opinions that you actually hold to, are they the things that you actually believe in because you've thought these things through, you've seen the conclusions, and you've actually adopted that into, your own personal worldview? Or is it mostly because of how you were raised, the people that you're around with, the people who you maybe went to college with? Has that shaped the way you think? Or did you actually come to these ideas on your own? Now, that's a very deep and philosophical question that not a lot of people answer, but this is a question that I've honestly been asking myself a lot, because I've honestly been finding out, going through premarital counseling with my fiance, and especially about our relationship, and most of my thinking tends to come from my parents. And that's not a negative thing at all, because they've raised me in a really, really great way. And I hold a conservative views, and it's not like this is kind of a rebellious type of thing at all. But it's more of the sense of like, okay, I agree with most of the things that they've instilled with me, and even to my own faith, I've come to my own personal conclusion that this is what I believe in, and this is what I know, and this is what I believe is true. Not because, I grew up in a Christian household, right? I looked up all the facts, I did all the research and everything like that, and then I came to that conclusion. But then there's also other things as well, because at least with my parents, right, a lot of things can be black and white, and that's perfectly fine, because their generation kind of comes from a more black and white type of generation. They're more Generation X, that kind of thing. And, me in Gen Z, we're kind of more of a fluid, right? There's a lot more gray areas that have been discovered and kind of being open to talking about and whatnot. And I'm learning how to function in all of that. And there's definitely some, let's say you would say, boundaries or expectations that you would put on relationships, right, that my parents would hold to, right? But then there's also to the point of like where my fiance, she was raised completely differently than how I was in terms of like boundaries that we held and everything else like that. While us, it's more of the sense of more traditional, I guess you would say. More them is more feministic, independent, and whatnot. And there's good on both sides, definitely. And so this is the time where I'm kind of coming into the conclusion of like, what do I believe in? What do I really agree with? What's the, like, if I had a problem with something my future wife may do or fiance may do, right? Like when it comes to crossing a boundary that I have for myself, why is that such a problem? And that's the question I have to ask myself, and that I have, really. It's like, why is that such a problem for me? Rather than just like, it's such a problem for me, and that's the way it is. It's like, no, let me examine myself. Like, is it rooted in something I fundamentally don't believe? Is it rooted in something that's actually harmful that I can see in the long term, right? This may be to the point where like I'm seeing the consequences of what those actions could look like in the future. Or is it mostly just the sense of maybe insecurities that I have, feelings that are hurt, unmet expectations, whatever the case is? And the reason why I'm bringing this up really is because I've been asking myself these questions a lot, and it's honestly difficult. It's really difficult just to figure out like, how do I think? And even for my fiance, like, how does she think? How do we want to think? What are the things that we want to hold? What are the things that we want to build in this new relationship that we're making for each one of us? Anyways, sorry, my English just, but that's the main question. And in all honesty, like, kind of like the title of this video, am I an independent thinker? Is she an independent thinker? Are we thinking independently and coming to these conclusions because, no, we thought it through, we looked at all the possibilities, and we're like, no, I fundamentally agree with this because of this point of view, not because, oh, it's because it is. Like, if someone doesn't agree with you, you can actually give them a valid explanation of why you came to this kind of thought process. And you'd be like, no, I believe this because of this, and because of this. And this is why I hold to this standpoint, this opinion, this boundary, whatever the case looks like. And once you get to the point where you can actually do that and not just citing things that maybe other people have said, but things that you actually come to a conclusion to, like, you become a lot more firm in the way that you think because you've actually come to that conclusion. And obviously, if there's further, let's say, evidence or further clarification that is given to you that kind of like disproves what you thought before, then you're like, okay, then I got to reevaluate, right? Because that's with everybody. Because, I mean, I'll just say an example that I met with a lot of different Christians because I grew up in a Christian household and everything. Like, a lot of times, kids that I grew up with that were Christian and I was friends with them and whatnot, and it came to a certain point, they went to college. And a lot of times, many colleges, even Christian colleges, to be honest, there's a lot of atheist teachers over there. So they would kind of like just question and kind of belittle people who had their faith. And be like, well, if God's real, then this. Well, if God's real, then why this? Then why that? And they didn't have the answers for that. Because obviously, if you never really thought of those questions before, you never really would look into the answers. And then that kind of just makes them reevaluate their whole faith. Because it's like, okay, am I really believing this because of my parents? Because I was raised this way? Or do I actually believe in this? And that's the same thing when it comes to the way you believe in relationships, the way you hold your relationships, right? The way you work with people, the way you conduct business, the way you conduct your family, raising a family, all that jazz. And I don't know, this isn't going to be a long one, but this is pretty much just the major question I've been asking myself for the past few weeks. And it's honestly been a tough one, figuring out where I want to be. And honestly, I'm asking God for a lot of clarity too. Of like not only what I believe, but like what is also grounded in the truth as well. Because I don't want to believe something that's just mostly meant on feelings, and I want to believe in something. I want to hold to an opinion that's actually based in truth and facts, as well as being able to be like push myself in the best position forward, like for my family, for my wife, future wife, and all that jazz. And I just invite you, the 10 people who's going to watch this, ask yourself that question. Are you an independent thinker? And are the beliefs and ideas that you hold on to, are they ideas that you personally hold on to because you've thought this through? Or is it merely because you only hold on to it because of your parents or the way you were raised or the people that you have around you? That's the main question. And just take an objective look at all of this stuff and see what is true, what the evidence points to, and all that different jazz and whatever. And whatever conclusion you come up to, go ahead. But this is more of the case of like not pushing Christianity or anything or pushing atheism or whatever the case is, right? It's more of just the case of like critically thinking. Like, okay, let me evaluate what actually is and not just take a fact. Take an opinion as it is a fact, which most of media actually does nowadays, which is freaking annoying. But this is something I'm growing in, right? And I can't just be like, oh, this is the way it's always been done, so that means it is correct. Well, let me think critically about this, right? If it's always been done like this, then there's merit to certain things, but also, could this be improved on, right? It's been shown to work. Could this be improved on? Should I look at this a little bit differently or the exact same as everyone else, right? And just coming to those different conclusions. Because nowadays, in all honesty, we all have been kind of sheep. Now, I'm guilty of this as well. We've all been pretty much sheep and believing what anyone else says that looks like they have some kind of authority, when in reality, like, we should be the one coming to our own conclusions. And I think that's what's happening nowadays, especially going into 2025 and whatnot. Like, people are honestly thinking a lot more critically about all these different things. And it's honestly a game changer. Because if you and I can both come to the place where we're both critically thinking about the things that we are passionate about, the things that actually matter to us, then whatever may come your way, it's not going to stop you. Because you have, like, things are holding you up at that point. And it's not the end of the world. And so, yeah, Are you an independent thinker? And are the things that you hold to are actually because you hold them and you thought through them? Or is it because your parents mostly hold you to it? Right. And I guess a really good test of this that I've been figuring out is like, if you can properly explain the reason why you believe certain things validly, like even just through writing it out, like in a notebook, not even telling another person, right? That's formulating arguments and all this different stuff, but not that. But it's just like making a proper argument for the why you think this way and the reason why and like what the consequences of it are in the grand scheme of things and whatnot. Then if you can't do that, then you might want to see if you actually have that reason, or then just question like, okay, did I actually think this through or no? And if you can, then you know that like, oh no, I formulated this thought, I have this proper opinion, and I can hold to it. And then obviously if new things come up, we got to be flexible, right? With whatever is truth that comes out. And so this is just more of a self-reflective thing for me, in all honesty. And I hope it added value to you for like the 10 people that's watching this, really. But I love you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Peace.